She thought she had every right to walk into my home, like it belonged to her. What she didn't know was that my loyal K9 was waiting inside, trained to protect and ready to defend what was his. This wasn't just about trespassing. It was about power, control, and the ugly face of prejudice hiding behind the rules of a neighborhood. That day, Karen from the HOA crossed a line she could never come back from, and my dog made sure she regretted every second of it. What started as a quiet afternoon turned into a lesson she would never forget. I had lived in the neighborhood for just under 2 years when the HOA's true colors started to show. At first, it was subtle. Polite letters about my lawn, notices about the color of my shutters, comments about the vehicles in my driveway. But under those community standards was something uglier. A constant reminder that people like me didn't truly belong in their carefully manicured world. The leader of this crusade was a woman everyone knew, Karen. She wore her authority like armor, walking the streets as if she owned every house and yard. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was enforcing control, and when control slipped from her hands, she lashed out. I had always felt her eyes on me, the way she lingered too long when I stepped outside, the way her words carried an edge of superiority masked as politeness, but I never thought she would go as far as she did that day. On that morning, I left for a short trip to run errands, leaving my loyal K9, Rex, inside the house. Rex wasn't just a pet. He was family, trained, disciplined, and fiercely protective. What I didn't know was that while I was gone, Karen decided my home was hers to inspect. She convinced herself she had a right to walk in, as if my front door was another line item under her HOA checklist. She crossed that threshold without permission, without hesitation, and without thinking about the consequences. But Rex was waiting. The moment Karen stepped inside, she likely expected to find some petty violation she could use against me. Maybe something to justify another fine, another letter, another reminder that I didn't belong. But instead she found Rex. Rex had been trained not just for companionship, but for protection. He knew the difference between a friend and an intruder, and to him Karen was no friend. The sound of the door opening triggered his instincts immediately. His low growl echoed through the hallway, warning her that she had crossed a boundary. Karen froze at first. She must have thought she could wave him off, that he was just another dog she could boss around. But Rex didn't move aside. His body stiffened, ears pinned forward, muscles tensed like a spring. His deep guttural growl grew louder, vibrating through the air like a warning siren. Still, Karen pressed forward, muttering under her breath, glancing around the living room as though she had authority there. But the truth was written on Rex's face. She was prey, and he was protector. When Rex lunged forward, Karen finally realized the danger she had walked into. His bark shook the walls, his teeth bared inches from her arm. She stumbled backward, knocking over a chair, her face twisting from arrogance to fear in seconds. She scrambled toward the door, but Rex followed, ensuring she didn't take another step deeper into the home. Outside, neighbors began to gather, drawn by the commotion. They saw Karen stumble out of my house, pale, trembling, and humiliated. Rex stood tall in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes locked on her like a sentinel defending his territory. But humiliation wasn't enough for Karen. Instead of admitting her mistake, she twisted the story. She claimed Rex had attacked her unprovoked, that she had every right to be inside because she was checking for violations. She spun her trespassing into duty, and my dog's defense into aggression. The HOA quickly rallied behind her, sending letters, demanding hearings, even threatening legal action. They painted Rex as dangerous, me as irresponsible, and Karen as the victim. But what they didn't know was that I had proof. When the HOA dragged me into a meeting, their intent was clear: to intimidate, to force me into submission. Karen sat at the head of the table, her arm in a sling she didn't need, her expression smug with victory. The others whispered in agreement, their eyes flickering with judgment. They laid out their accusations. My dog was violent, my property unsafe, and I was a danger to the neighborhood. They threatened fines, removal, and even hinted at involving animal control. But as their words filled the room, I remained calm, because I had the truth. What Karen hadn't realized was that my security cameras had captured everything. Her walking in without permission, Rex warning her with growls, her ignoring the danger, and finally her scrambling out in fear. The footage showed Rex never touched her, never bit her, never did more than defend his home. When I pulled out the footage, the room went silent. The smugness drained from Karen's face as the truth played out in front of her peers. The growl, the bark, the moment she trespassed, All undeniable, all clear. The narrative shifted instantly. No longer was I the outsider breaking rules. I was the homeowner defending my rights, with a loyal dog by my side. And Karen? She wasn't a victim. She was an intruder, exposed in front of the very people she had manipulated for years. Her authority shattered in that moment. The aftermath was swift. The HOA could no longer protect Karen after the truth was laid bare. The board was forced to dismiss their claims, and whispers began spreading through the neighborhood about her lies, her obsession with control, and the humiliation she brought upon herself. Karen avoided me after that day, her eyes darting away whenever we crossed paths. The power she once wielded had crumbled, and the neighbors she once controlled with fear now questioned her motives. She was no longer the voice of authority, but the example of how prejudice and arrogance could backfire. Rex remained my loyal guardian, his presence a reminder of the thin line between safety and danger, between injustice and truth. He hadn't just protected my home, he had protected my dignity in a community that wanted to strip it away. But the incident left a mark deeper than the embarrassment Karen carried. It reminded everyone that behind the rules and regulations of neighborhoods like this, prejudice often hides in plain sight. The letters, the fines, the inspections, they weren't about community standards. They were about control, about keeping certain people in their place. And when that control was challenged, Karen thought she could take matters into her own hands. She thought she could walk into my home, uninvited, unchecked, unquestioned. But she was wrong, because homes are not just walls and roofs. They are sanctuaries. And no board, no neighbor, no Karen has the right to strip someone of that security. So the question remains, how many others have faced the same silent battles in their own neighborhoods, their own communities? How many times has prejudice been disguised as rules and standards? Karen learned her lesson the hard way. But for the rest of us, the reminder is clear. Stand firm, protect what's yours, and never let someone else's prejudice define your place in the world.